In late 2010, a couple of things happened, which is what gave me the big theme for this book. It had been an extraordinary decade for all developing countries. Never before in the history of economic development had so many countries done as well as they did over the last decade. Just to put that number in context, the average growth rate of developing countries in the 1950s and 1960s was about 5% per year. In the 1970s, it was a bit lower, but somewhat similar. 1980s and 1990s, that growth rate dropped to 3.5%, as there were so many crises in various emerging markets. And then in 2003 onwards, that growth rate jumped to 7.5% a year. And from 2003 to 2008, we sustained that boom of growing at an average pace of about 7.5% per year. Never before in the history of economic development had so many countries grown so quickly together. And the peak year of that boom was 2007, when only about 3 countries in the entire emerging market universe reported a negative GDP growth rate. Typically, like in any year, if you go back in history, about 15 to 20% of countries in any year report a negative GDP growth rate. But in the peak year of 2007, only 3 countries did. And these 3 countries were Fiji, Zimbabwe, Congo. Basically, who cares, right? So, I mean, you had the entire emerging market world doing well. Some random small sort of stragglers weren't doing that well, but they were doing extremely well out here. And we all came to celebrate this era as being this era where this mass rise of emerging markets was taking place. The power was shifting away from the developed world with the narrative of the US in decline, the Western world in decline, and these powers were rising in the emerging world. And this narrative got even stronger after the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, because it was seen to be a Western financial crisis, and these countries were very badly affected, and it was seen that these emerging markets would continue to do that well.